G'day guys, ZiggyD here, welcome back for some more Path of Exile. In this video I want to talk to you guys about what I've been doing in Path of Exile over the past few days. The blue item only challenge, or the magic item only challenge. Basically, I set myself out a challenge to roll a new Bloodlines character. This is the first character I've actually played on Bloodlines. And at the same time, I wanted to kind of go back to a time when Path of Exile Hardcore was a much slower paced and more considered. You would progress much more slowly, you would much more carefully gear, and you would sort of have a more sort of, I guess, nostalgic, slower pace to it. I mean, I think the modern Path of Exile, where things move very quickly and you know, the game plays at a much faster pace, is overall better, but I have a certain nostalgia for that sort of slow, almost survivalistic feeling of old school Path of Exile. So I wanted to replicate some of that, and I thought playing with only magic items might be a good way to do that. At the same time, I thought this could be an interesting learning experience for myself and some of you guys. I think using only blue items and trying to make it as far as you can kind of highlights what is actually essential on gear. Like, when people get really obsessed, especially new players, with rare items and uniques. You'll see people using, a ton of rare items and uniques, when you could get a lot of magic items with just life and resist that are a lot better. So once you start restricting yourself to only magic items, you only have 2 mods to play with on each item, and you need to much more carefully decide what those modifiers are. It's like, sure, you can get 12 to 22 fire damage on your amulet, and that's going to boost your DPS, but can you afford the cost of not getting life on that? I mean, if this was a rare, you could just get some damage mods and some life and you'd be good to go. But when you're using those blue items, you much have to make that decision much more carefully. So at the moment, I'm like, yeah, I can afford to sacrifice some survivability for a little bit more damage, but maybe a little bit down the line I'm going to have to reconsider that. And it also kind of, I think, makes you a bit more active in looking for gear and being aware of what you're wearing and what upgrades you're having, because you can't kind of just slap on a couple rares and just incidentally get close to capped resistances. You have to put a fair bit of effort and consideration into capping your resists. At the moment, I am doing pretty well. I'm in Act 2 Cruel at the moment, and I'm almost capped in Cruel even after the resistance penalty. So I'm doing fine, and I think I'll be able to continue to roll through Cruel and well into Merciless, unless I die to something silly, or if I die to a Bloodlines mod I'm not familiar with, which there's a good chance that'll happen, but I'm gonna have a good time seeing how far I can make it. So on this character, I'll give you guys a bit of a rundown of the character I'm playing. I'm playing an Elemental Kinetic Blast Wander. Now, Wanders are usually known for being fairly gear intensive, but the reason why I decided to go for this is that I wanted something ranged. I didn't want to play another bow character. I play a lot of bow characters. And I thought it was a good opportunity to try some Kinetic Blast. But the most important thing is, if you're going to do a blue item only challenge, you can't play a physical build. So the reason for that is, to get a good physical weapon, you need basically at least 2 prefixes, but you'll mostly want 3 prefixes. And that is increased physical damage, a flat increase in physical damage, and then increased physical damage hybrid accuracy mod. So that's how you get yourself a good physical weapon, or you at least have 2 of those 3. And with a blue item challenge, that's simply impossible. You can't do that. You can only have 1 prefix and 1 suffix. However, with an elemental-based build, all you really need is either crit chance or attack speed on the suffix. Both of those fine. Like, if you're using rare items, you can get both of those and you're going to be better off. Sure, like, obviously, a blue items only character is never going to be as good as a character that has rare items, of course. Let's get that out of the way. This is not the point of this. But you can make an effective character with just something like this. I just found a 1.5 attack speed carver wand. Honestly, you can use a white wand, but I managed to get one here with 7% increased attack speed. And for leveling, that's all I need. Later on, I'm going to try and find a high base attack speed wand with crit chance as the suffix. And then the prefix could be like a little bit of elemental damage or something like that. Is going to be fine. And then for all the rest of your gear, you can basically just build defensive and get most of your damage from your auras. That's kind of the beauty of an elemental build. So at the moment I'm running Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ice, and Wrath, and eventually I'm also going to run Anger, and that will give me enough damage to get into and do maps, even with only blue items. So it's definitely possible. And I mean, people have done this before. People have killed Atru with Eldritch Battery CI characters, and people have killed Atru in blue items before. It's definitely possible to do. It's still an interesting sort of challenge and an interesting learning experience though, and I've been really having quite a bit of fun playing through on this character with this challenge, and it has sort of done what I wanted it to do, which make me have a much more slow paced, considered playthrough. But I've been really thoroughly enjoying it. Other options, if you guys wanted to do a blue items only challenge and magic items only challenge, is to go something like a spellcaster. So as I said, basically the only thing you can't really do is a physical character. I imagine summoners would be possible. I'm not sure exactly what restrictions you'd have as a non-rare using summoner. I know that one particular challenge you're going to have if you're doing blue items only is getting enough primary stats. So if you have like only limited access to something like dexterity from the passive tree, getting dexterity on gear becomes a lot more difficult if you can't use rares, because you need to start sacrificing, you know, other much more attractive stats for those, you know, those things like dexterity. You can get a little bit of dexterity on an amulet, for example. You get some strength on a belt, but to get your actual rolls, like strength roll just here, for example, that takes up a resistance slot. So although I've gotten some strength here, and that's helpful because it provides a little bit of life, I am sacrificing the resistance. I mean, that could potentially be some cold resistance, which would bring me up to cap. So the sacrifice for getting main stats in a blue items only character is much higher. So you could play a spellcaster, or I think you could probably manage a summoner as long as you planned out your passive tree to accommodate for that weakness, for that sort of drawback. And on the same token, like when I was planning out the skill tree for this character, I unpurposely route out a few things like Faith and Steel and stuff that give more increased elemental resistances. Templar's good because he gets quite a bit of extra resistances as he kind of moves around the trees. Some 12 all resist there. We've got some extra resists, I think. Oh yeah, Faith and Steel. I think we can get some over near Witch as well. There's quite a bit of all resistances available to me, and this challenge is also good for that because it kind of highlights those things that you can get as well. You know, main stats and resistances that are scattered around the tree that you would often ignore, but can actually be very helpful for while leveling. While you're leveling a character, it's often not a bad idea to pick up like an all resist node and then just respec out of it later. Oh, holy commentary drops. So this sort of challenge can sort of help you learn that too. Maybe some of you guys will pick up this and enjoy it, or maybe some of you guys will kind of just enjoy watching it. I've been live streaming it. You can check out the VODs, or you can pop into the live stream to see how I'm going if you want. But otherwise, I'll probably keep you guys updated on how I'm going with it. So one question that comes up very often with this challenge is whether I'm doing this self-found only. The answer is no, but you might as well be, because when it comes to doing blue items only challenge, there's not really that much difference between trading and self-found, because maybe at endgame you can potentially buy some nice regal-worthy blue items from people, but for the most part you're using blue items, and in terms of leveling gear, most people sell really good rares or uniques, mostly uniques, and you know, that's not really going to help you, right? You can't wear those items, so it's kind of, you know, sure you can trade, but there's not really going to be that much advantage to you in doing so. So what I've been doing is if I get things like Alks or Chaos, I use like Alks on strongboxes and stuff, but I also just trade for them for like skill gems if I need. I did end up buying like an Elrian ring off someone, so there's a couple things you can trade for, and I haven't explicitly given myself self-found only challenge, but it's really like not much of a big difference if you do go self-found or not in this particular challenge. I just found it easier to trade for the skill gems, and it didn't really like make it all that much easier apart from getting some skill gems, which is nice and helpful. Another frequently asked question that comes up is, can you actually even get capped resists on blue items? Is that even possible? And the answer is actually technically yes. I think with perfect resistances on blue items, on every item, you can actually get capped resistances. Now, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to get like 45 resistance roll on all of my items, but I can get, you know, 30 plus on each of them, and then pick up a little bit of resistances on the tree. You know, I've got some more resistances on the tree, so I don't need perfect gear. And if I'm ever struggling at any point, I can potentially drop some damage and run a Purity Aura as well. And if you're not playing an elemental attack based build, if you're playing like a summoner or a spellcaster, you're actually going to be able to run like Purity and the other Purity Auras a lot easier, and still have a really easy time of gearing as well. And that can help if you need some main stats like strength or dexterity, for example, as well. So because this is always fun, I'll give you guys a rundown of my epic gear set. People like to sort of see what gear I'm running. So for the wand, I have myself increased attack speed. The physical damage is really nothing. This is actually a carved wand, which is a very, very low level wand, but I found this and I rolled attack speed on it, and I was like, that's all I need. It doesn't really matter that's a low level one because the physical damage doesn't scale at all in my build. I'm scaling elemental damage only, so that is fine. My helmet I'm using mostly because it's a full link. You have to kind of prioritize links sometimes, but it does have a bit of fire resist, and armor evasion is kind of just always a bonus. Life is going to be much, much more valuable, and that's kind of a drawback of a blue items thing, is it's much harder to get things like armor and evasion. But, you know, while you're leveling, you can get by with just your basic stuff, and then at endgame you kind of just have to be a little bit more heavy-handed on your granite usage. But the fire resistors and the sockets are the reason I'm using that. Kite shields are the way to go for a challenge like this. If you can use this kite shield, you want to do so, because 12 all resistance on the implicit is in addition to what I was talking about with that perfect resistance rolls. So that's like an extra resist you can get. So basically this was a 3-stat blue, guys. Good stuff. So I got some life and resist on that as well. On the boot I have life and cold resist. Of course, if you want move speed, you're going to have to sacrifice life, so that can be a little bit of a challenge, but you kind of have to make that decision as you go. Honestly, I would prefer move speed over life in 99% of cases, so if this wasn't a 4-link, and if I found one with a little bit of resistances and move speed, then I'm going to go ahead and use that. This one here is just a little bit of life on it, basically. It's got a pretty high life total. It's 60-something life. So that's basically the reason I'm using that. If I can find one with life and resist, obviously I'll replace that. And if I can find a full link, I might even take a slight downgrade to use the full link, because I'm starting to need some more gem sockets. My belt is rubbish. I've actually had this for a very long time, but it's been I just for some reason have not found any belts, or not been able to craft any belts. I keep trying. I keep trying to like craft belts from the vendors and belts that I find, but transmutes are liquid gold in a blue items only challenge, and I've actually been using chances in place of transmutes in the hopes of getting a blue item, but if I get a rare item, it bricks it and I have to sell it, so that's been pretty entertaining, but hopefully I'll be able to upgrade that belt soon. The chest armor I'm mostly using for the sockets, but it also has a little bit of resistances on it as well. Again, I would much prefer to get life and resist on that. Jewelry, my jewelry is pretty good. This is not the best base. Energy shield base is not that helpful for me, but it has 11% all resistance, which is very difficult to beat at this point. Even like 30% fire is worse than 11 all res, because 11 all res helps you keep a more balanced character, and it makes it easier to switch around other resistances later as well. So that one's been one I've had for a while. This one is a 2-stone ring. 2-stone rings are great. Prismatic rings are great because they're going to give you a ton of spread out resistances, making it easy to balance your character. And this one also rolled some 8 all resist. This was a Elrion ring that I purchased as well, so that was pretty good. The minus mana cost of skills helps a lot with leveling Kinetic Blast, which is quite expensive. I had another one, but I was able to trade it out for this one, that ring was quite a bit better. Jade Amulet for the dexterity and a bit of resistances. It rolled some damage. I mostly am using it for the lightning resist, because otherwise without it I'd be quite low, and also the dexterity, as you can see. But the fire damage is just kind of like, it helps me out somewhat. It provides a little bit of extra damage. So guys, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this kind of like little sort of first summary of my blue item challenge thus far. Hopefully I'll be able to continue pushing it further, and I don't know, we'll see how far we make it. I'll tell you what, in the comments below, I'd like you guys to tell me how far you think my character can make it on this blue items only challenge. Do you think I'll make it to maps? Do you think I'll die at Cruel Dominus? Do you think I'll die somewhere in Merciless? I'll tell you what, if one of you guys say something in the comments and you come back, maybe I'll like try and rig you up with some, if you like pick the exact thing that I die to and the exact location I die in, I'll get you some PoE microtransaction points or something. Alrighty guys, look forward to seeing your comments. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.